I am sitting alone in this empty apartment staring at an engagement ring box on the coffee table. 4 years of my life with Delphine, and our wedding was supposed to happen in just 3 months. I thought I knew her better than anyone else in this world. I thought we had built something real, something breakable. But then, one trip changed everything. Sometimes the most painful thing is not being betrayed. It is realizing that the person you love is willing to humiliate you in front of the entire world just because you dared to have an opinion. Before I share this story with you, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Trust me, you will want to stay for this one because the twists in this story caught even me off guard. I met Delphine 4 years ago at a small coffee shop in Austin, Texas. It was one of those ordinary Tuesday afternoons that somehow turn into the beginning of something extraordinary. I was sitting by the window working on some code for a project deadline when she walked in. She had this energy about her, this warmth that seemed to fill the entire room. She ordered a lavender latte, and when the barista accidentally gave her my black coffee, instead she laughed it off and brought it over to my table herself. We started talking, and 2 hours later, I realized I had completely forgotten about my deadline. Delphine was 24 years old back then, working in marketing at a tech startup downtown. She was vibrant, adventurous, and passionate about traveling. Her Instagram was filled with photos from national parks, beaches, and mountain trails. I was 27, a software engineer, more reserved and quiet by nature. But somehow we just clicked. Our first date was a hike at Enchanted Rock. Our second date was trying to cook Thai food together at her apartment and almost burning down the kitchen. By our 3rd month together, I knew she was the one. By our 1st anniversary, we had moved in together. By our 2nd year, I could not imagine my life without her. I proposed last fall, exactly 4 years after that first meeting at the coffee shop. I took her back to the same spot, got down on one knee right by the window where we had first talked, and asked her to spend the rest of her life with me. She cried. She said yes immediately. The whole coffee shop applauded. It felt like a movie. We started planning the wedding that same week. We put down a deposit on a beautiful venue outside the city. She found her dream dress. We sent out save the dates to over 150 guests. Everything was falling into place. But there was always Marcus. Marcus was Delphine's best friend from college, Pekis. They had known each other for almost 8 years, long before I ever came into the picture. When Delphine first told me about him, I did not think much of it. I have always believed that men and women can be friends. I was not going to be that insecure guy who gets threatened by every male in his girlfriend's life. Marcus was 30 years old, a freelance photographer who specialized in travel and lifestyle content. He was always jetting off to some exotic location for a shoot, always posting stunning photos from places most people only dream of visiting. He was also single attractive in that rugged adventurer way, and he had this easy charm that made everyone around him feel comfortable. He and Delphine would text almost every day. They would grab lunch together once or twice a week. Sometimes they would go to photography exhibitions or art shows together when I was busy with work. I told myself it was fine. I trusted Delphine. I was not going to be controlling. But there were moments that made me pause. Once I walked into the living room while Delphine was on the couch texting. She quickly tilted her phone screen away from me. When I asked who she was talking to, she said it was just Marcus, and they were planning a surprise birthday party for a mutual friend. The explanation made sense, but the way she hid the screen stuck with me. Another time I saw a notification pop up on her phone while she was in the shower. It was from Marcus. The preview read, "Miss you. Wish you were," and then it cut off. When I mentioned it to her later, she laughed and said Marcus was just being dramatic because she had canceled their lunch plans that week. She said he always talked like that it did not mean anything. I wanted to believe her. I chose to believe her. Then there was the afternoon they went out for coffee, and she came home 3 hours later than expected. She said they had just lost track of time, that they had so much to catch up on. I noticed she had changed her perfume that day, something lighter, more subtle than her usual scent. I told myself I was being paranoid. I pushed the thoughts away. Looking back now, I wonder how many signs I ignored because I did not want to see them. I wonder how many red flags I painted green because admitting the truth would have meant admitting that the life I was building might be built on unstable ground. But at the time, I convinced myself that everything was fine. Marcus was her friend. I was her fiancé. Those were two completely different categories. I had nothing to worry about. Until one Friday evening changed everything. It was a regular Friday night. We had just finished dinner, some pasta dish Delphine had tried from a new recipe she found online. We were sitting on the couch, half watching some home renovation show, when she turned to me with this excited look on her face. "So I have amazing news," she said, practically bouncing in her seat. "You know how Marcus has been trying to break into the travel magazine world. Well, he finally got his big break. A major publication hired him to do a 10-day photo shoot in Costa Rica." Can you believe it? I smiled and said that was great news for him. I meant it. Despite my complicated feelings about their friendship, I had nothing against Marcus personally. If he was succeeding in his career, good for him. But then Delphine continued. "And here's the best part," she said. "He asked me to come with him. He needs someone to help with logistics, carrying equipment, scouting locations, that kind of stuff. And you know how much I have always wanted to visit Costa Rica. The rainforests, the beaches, the wildlife. This is like a dream opportunity." I felt my stomach drop, but I kept my expression neutral. 10 days, I asked. "Just the two of you." "Yes, 10 days, and yes, just us. But do not worry, we would be working most of the time. It is not like a vacation." I took a deep breath. "Where would you be staying?" "Marcus found this gorgeous villa that is close to most of the shooting locations. It is actually cheaper than getting 2 separate hotel rooms, so we figured we would just share it. It has 2 bedrooms, obviously." She said all of this so casually, like she was telling me about a trip to the grocery store, like it was already decided, like my input was not needed or expected. I sat there for a moment processing what she had just told me. My fiancé wanted to travel to another country with another man, stay in a private villa with him for 10 days, and she was presenting this to me as a done deal rather than a discussion. "Delphine," I said slowly, choosing my words carefully, "I am not comfortable with this." Her smile faded. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I do not think it is appropriate for you to go on a 10-day trip with Marcus, just the two of you staying together in a villa. We are getting married in 3 months. Marcus is my friend," she said, her voice getting an edge to it. "We have been friends for 8 years. You have never had a problem with our friendship before. There is a difference between having lunch together and spending 10 days alone in another country," I said. "I am not saying you cannot be friends with him. I am saying this particular situation crosses a line for me." "What line?" "The line where you get to control where I go and who I go with." "That is not what this is about." "Then what is it about, because it sounds like you do not trust me?" I tried to stay calm. I really did. "Let me ask you something. If I told you I was going to spend 10 days in Costa Rica with a female friend staying in a private villa together, how would you feel?" She paused, but only for a second. "That is different." "How is it different?" "It just is. Marcus and I have history. We are like siblings at this point. There is nothing romantic between us." "Then it should not be a problem for you to go on this trip at a different time, or for him to find someone else to help him, or for you to stay at a separate location. Why should I have to change my plans because of your insecurities?" That word hit me like a punch. Insecurities. She was framing my completely reasonable concern as some kind of character flaw in me. The argument went on for nearly 2 hours. We went in circles. She accused me of being controlling, jealous, and possessive. I tried to explain that this was about respect and boundaries in a relationship, not about controlling her. She said if I really loved her, I would trust her. I said if she really loved me, she would understand why this made me uncomfortable. Neither of us was willing to budge. Finally, around 11 at night, Delphine stood up from the couch. "I am going to bed," she said coldly. "Maybe you will come to your senses by morning." She walked into the bedroom and closed the door. Not quite a slam, but close enough. I sat alone in the living room for hours replaying the conversation in my head. Was I being unreasonable? Was I being that stereotypical jealous boyfriend that everyone makes fun of? I genuinely questioned myself. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should just trust her and let it go. I finally fell asleep on the couch around 3 a.m, still undecided about what to do. When I woke up a few hours later, I reached for my phone to check the time. That is when I saw the notifications: 17 text messages, 8 missed calls, 3 voicemails, all from friends and family members. Something was very wrong. I opened Facebook first, and my heart stopped. Delphine had posted a status update at 1:47 a.m, just about an hour after our argument ended. It had already accumulated over 200 reactions and nearly 100 comments. The post read, "Some men think they own you the moment you say yes to them. They want to control who you see, where you go, what you do. They disguise their insecurity as concern and their jealousy as love. But I am not property. I am not a possession. I am a free woman, and I will never let anyone put me in a cage. To all my sisters out there dealing with controlling partners, know your worth. You deserve freedom. You deserve respect. You deserve better." She did not mention my name. She did not have to. Everyone who knew us knew exactly who she was talking about. The comments were overwhelming. Hundreds of people validating her, supporting her, praising her for standing up to her controlling fiancé. "Leave him, girl. This is such a red flag. You deserve someone who trusts you. Men like that never change. Get out while you can." A few of our mutual friends had commented with heart emojis and words of encouragement. People who I thought knew me, who I thought would at least wonder if there was another side to the story. But no. They all jumped on the bandwagon without a second thought. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like the floor had been ripped out from under me. This was not just a disagreement between partners anymore. This was a public execution. She had taken our private conversation and turned it into a performance for hundreds of people, casting herself as the victim and me as the villain. I thought about all the times I had supported her, all the sacrifices I had made for our relationship. I had worked overtime for an entire year to save money for the wedding she wanted. I had turned down a major promotion in Seattle because she wanted to stay in Austin near her family. I had rearranged my entire life around building a future with her. And this was how she responded to me expressing a genuine concern. Not with a conversation, not with compromise, but with public humiliation. Something shifted inside me in that moment. The hurt was there, absolutely. But beneath it was something else. Clarity. I suddenly saw with perfect focus exactly what kind of person I was about to marry. I did not wake Delphine. I did not confront her. I did not post a response or try to defend myself in the comments. Instead, I sat in complete silence as the sun rose and I made a decision. The first thing I did was open Facebook and change my relationship status to single. No explanation, no dramatic announcement, just a simple status update that spoke for itself. Then I picked up my phone and started making calls. The first call was to the wedding venue. The woman who answered sounded confused when I explained that I needed to cancel everything. She asked if I was sure if maybe I just wanted to postpone instead. I told her I was certain. She informed me that we would lose the entire deposit, $20,000. I said I understood. She processed the cancellation. The second call was to the printing company that was handling our wedding invitations. The order had already been placed, but had not yet been printed. They were able to cancel it with only a small fee. The third call was to my parents in Colorado. My mother answered on the second ring. I could hear the concern in her voice immediately. She had already seen Delphine's post. I explained the situation as briefly as I could. There was a long pause, and then my mother said, "I am so sorry, sweetheart, but you are doing the right thing." My father got on the line and told me he was proud of me for having the courage to walk away. By the time I finished my calls, it was almost 9 in the morning. I could hear movement from the bedroom. Delphine was waking up. I sat at the kitchen table and waited. She walked out a few minutes later, still in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. She poured herself a cup of coffee before she even looked at her phone. I watched her face as she scrolled through the notifications. First confusion, then shock, then panic. "What did you do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think the question is, what did you do?" I replied calmly. "But since you asked, I changed my status to single. I canceled the wedding venue, the invitations, and everything else. And I think you should start looking for a new place to live. You have 2 weeks. Her face went pale. "You cannot be serious." "I have never been more serious about anything in my life. Because of one stupid Facebook post, I was angry, I was venting. I did not think you would actually see it." "That is the problem, Delphine. You did not think. Or maybe you did think, and you just did not care. Either way, you took our private disagreement and turned it into a public spectacle. You painted me as some kind of controlling monster to hundreds of people without ever considering how that would affect me." "I can delete it," she said quickly. "I will delete it right now and post an apology. I will explain that I overreacted." "It is too late for that. The damage is done. People have already seen it, commented on it, formed their opinions. But honestly, even if none of that had happened, the fact that your first instinct when we have an argument is to run to social media and humiliate me tells me everything I need to know about how you handle conflict." Tears started streaming down her face. "Please, we can work through this. 4 years we have been together, 4 years. You cannot just throw that away." "I did not throw it away. You did. The moment you decided that your ego and your trip with Marcus were more important than our relationship, you made your choice." She tried arguing. She tried bargaining. She tried crying harder. Nothing worked. I had made my decision, and I was not going to be manipulated out of it. Eventually, Delphine called her mother. I could hear her sobbing into the phone, telling a very one-sided version of events. About 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It was her mother trying to convince me to reconsider, saying that Delphine made a mistake, but that everyone deserves forgiveness. I listened politely, then said, "With all due respect, this is between Delphine and me. My decision is final." Over the next few hours, the situation continued to escalate. More people saw my relationship status change. Comments started appearing on Delphine's original post, asking what happened. Some of our friends reached out to me directly, wanting to know my side of the story. I gave them a brief, factual account without any drama or embellishment. The tide started to turn. People who had initially supported Delphine began to realize that maybe the situation was more complicated than her post had suggested. Some deleted their supportive comments. Others sent me private messages apologizing for jumping to conclusions. My sister posted her own status that afternoon. "Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. So proud of my brother today." She did not mention names either. but people understood. Through all of this, Marcus stayed completely silent. Not a single post, not a single comment, not a single word of support for his supposed best friend, who was apparently going through a terrible time. His silence told me everything I needed to know about where his priorities really were. Delphine made one more attempt to salvage her public image. She posted another status that evening, something about how relationships are complicated and how she and her fiancé were working through some issues and asking for privacy. But it was too little too late. The comments section quickly filled with people pointing out the contradiction between this post and her earlier one. She deleted it within an hour. The 2 weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Watching Delphine pack up her belongings, seeing our shared life being divided into boxes and bags, it felt like watching a building being demolished. Every item she wrapped in newspaper was a memory. The cookbook we bought on our trip to New Orleans, the throw blanket we picked out together for movie nights, the framed photo from our engagement that had hung above the fireplace. There were moments when I questioned myself. Late at night, lying alone in the bed that still smelled faintly of her perfume, I wondered if I had overreacted. Maybe I should have given her another chance. Maybe I was being too rigid, too unforgiving. But then, I would remember that Facebook post. I would remember the hundreds of people reading her words and believing that I was some kind of controlling abuser. I would remember how easily she had thrown me under the bus to win sympathy from strangers on the internet, and I knew I had made the right choice. My parents flew in from Colorado to spend a week with me. My mother cooked all my favorite meals and did not pressure me to talk about anything I was not ready to discuss. My father took me fishing one morning, and we sat in comfortable silence for hours, not catching much, but not really caring either. Their presence reminded me that I still had people who loved me unconditionally. 3 months later, on what was supposed to be my wedding day, I drove to Big Bend National Park. I hiked to the top of Emory Peak, the highest point in the park, and I stood there looking out over miles and miles of mountains and desert and sky. I expected to feel sad. I expected to feel bitter or angry or lost. Instead, I felt free. I had spent so much energy trying to make the relationship work, trying to be understanding about Marcus, trying to ignore the warning signs that something was wrong. Standing on that mountain, I realized how exhausting it had all been. How much of myself I had given up trying to be the perfect partner to someone who did not fully appreciate it. In the months that followed, I threw myself into rebuilding. I finally accepted that promotion to Seattle. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during my relationship with Delphine. I started going to the gym regularly, reading books I had put off for years, learning to cook dishes that were more ambitious than pasta and takeout. I even started dating again casually, at first with no pressure or expectations. I was not looking for Delphine's replacement. I was learning to be happy on my own first. About 6 months after the breakup, I heard through mutual friends that Delphine and Marcus had made their relationship official. They were posting photos together, calling each other partner, doing all the couple things that Delphine and I used to do. I waited to feel something, anger, jealousy, vindication, but mostly I just felt relief. Relief that I had gotten out when I did. Relief that I was no longer the one being lied to. Relief that their relationship was no longer my problem. Whether they will last, I have no idea. And honestly, I do not care anymore. That chapter of my life is closed. What I learned from all of this is that the way someone handles conflict tells you more about them than how they act when everything is going well. Anyone can be a good partner when life is easy. The real test comes when there is disagreement, when there is tension, when one person has to choose between their ego and their relationship. Delphine chose her ego. She chose public validation over private resolution. She chose the approval of strangers over the trust of the person she claimed to love. And I learned that setting boundaries is not controlling. Expressing concerns is not jealousy. Expecting respect is not insecurity. These are the basic requirements of a healthy relationship, and anyone who tries to make you feel guilty for having them is not someone who deserves your commitment. Sometimes walking away is not giving up. Sometimes it is the bravest thing you can do. It is choosing yourself when no one else will. It is refusing to accept less than you deserve, even when it means losing everything you thought you wanted. If you are watching this and you are in a situation where your partner makes you feel crazy for having reasonable expectations, where they turn every disagreement into a public performance, where they prioritize their image over your feelings, I want you to know that you are not wrong. Your concerns are valid. Your boundaries matter. And you deserve someone who will never, ever make you question that. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a relationship where your partner tried to make you feel controlling for having reasonable boundaries? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. Because I know we are not alone in this. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you have not already subscribed to this channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for being part of this community. I wish you all the strength to recognize your worth and the courage to walk away from anyone who does not see it. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.